you may know tons of everything here, but like what's here in your right hand is dictating everything. This is more your voice than this, in a lot of ways. So just kind of finding, where does it feel good? What makes it sound? What is satisfying to you?
Hi, and welcome to ForBassPlayersOnly.com. I'm John Leapman, founder and first baseman. Awesome, awesome interview this week. Viktor Krauss coming up in a minute. He's going to talk all about a lot of stuff that he's done with his sister Alison Krauss and a lot of stuff that he's done on his own with Lyle Lovett and everything else. But first, if you've ever wanted to learn bass, but you think maybe you're too old or you think your body won't let you, you should know that right now there are thousands of people inside the For Bass Players Only community. A lot of them in their 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, even 80s. I've got students in their 80s, men and women. And you know what they're doing? They're learning bass. They're having the time of their life playing music that they love. You should come join them and experience that incredible transformation for yourself. Remember, you're never too old to groove. So let's play bass. Viktor Krauss is a bassist and composer based in Nashville, Tennessee, and he's appeared on darn near 600 albums. He is the brother to vocalist and fiddler Alison Krauss, and Victor's most recognized for being the longtime bass player with Lyle Lovett's band, which he used to do before he got busy with Robert Plant and other stuff that he's doing now. He's also performed or recorded with a veritable who's who of artists, including James Taylor, Carly Simon, Chet Atkins, Elvis Costello, Dolly Parton, Harry Connick Jr., Tom Jones, Joan Baez, Robert Plant, as I mentioned, Bill Frisell, John Fogerty, Sheryl Crow, the list just goes on. In 2006, Victor was awarded a fellowship for the prestigious Film Composers Lab at the Sundance Institute, and his film composing credits include music for directors Ken Burns and the late Robert Altman. Victor's music has also appeared in bumpers between shows for National Public Radio. He's released 3 solo recordings to date, plus 2023's most recent trio album, Coffin, Perlson, Krauss, featuring Jeff Coffin and Jordan Perlson, which we're going to hear all about. Here is my Victor. Here is my interview with Victor. Hi, Victor. How you doing, my friend?
Good. Thank you so much for having me.
It's good to see you again. Somehow your name came up, and I said, "Oh, you know what? It's too early. We just interviewed him. It was just like a minute ago." And I look, it was in 2021. I can't believe it was
Wow.
long ago. And talked about a lot of cool stuff. And
Yeah.
I know you've got at least one new album since we talked, the one you did with Coffin and Perlson called Coffin
Yes.
Perlson. I was listening to a little bit of that earlier. Very easy on the ears, very nice.
Well, thank you.
But we might as well start there. Tell me about the new record.
Well, that record kind of came out of the pandemic, where we had Jeff and Jordan, who had both worked with independently. Jeff had kind of wanted to keep playing, even in the uncertain conditions or scary conditions, and we would actually get together and play a couple times a week, and masked and across the room, and just kind of you know took risks and played anyway. There was a number of people that
Well,
I
he
think.
didn't wear a mask when he played, I assume.
No, no. But uh and we just had a wonderful time of kind of um keeping music going in spite of everything else coming to a halt at that time period. And so we had, as a result of that, it had a good pile of songs to kind of choose from, and decided to go in and actually record in this spot, this studio of mine, um, a record. We did it in one day, and it was just maybe about 10. I don't remember actually how many tunes are on the record, but a handful of songs that we'd been kind of playing regularly, and it was kind of nice to just document that moment. Um, what kind of came out of just feeling a necessity to play. And since that point, I actually looked back and we've been doing it quite a while now with just the three of us, but we're in the midst of another record which has, it's the same trio, but a guest soloist or um, other element in each one of the songs. So we've got people like John Beasley on piano, Leo Genovese, also on piano. Mike Stern played on one. We're gonna have Sam Bush on another, and Jerry Douglas played on one song. So it's kind of all over the place. So Bob Lanzetti of Snarky Puppy played on, I think, one or two, and um, I know there are others. I have to kind of I'll have to look back, but it's been a record that's been in the works for about a year, and um, we just have the last bit of soloists, and then we'll probably be mixing that pretty soon for hopefully a fall or a winter release of 2025.
Great.
Yeah.
Hey, let me ask you about the other one, the one that's already out. With
Hmm.
just the three, tell me about the challenges, if any, without a chording instrument, no piano, no guitar, and just the bass can technically play more than one note at a time, but it's generally not, as common as just one note at a time. Saxophone is certainly one note at a time. So how do you negotiate the harmonies and hear the changes going by in that kind of context? You got to put on a different hat when you do that, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, it's not necessarily always playing more or busier. It's just making sure that as much of the harmony is represented. So it's I mean, which is true in any walking bass line, or I mean, not all these tunes are are traditional jazz, but compositionally you have to kind of make sure that okay, that at least a major and minor is represented somehow, and or sevenths or whatever. So it's less root and fifth, and um, and there are other elements that you can kind of just add just to make that the counterpoint against the melodic line or with Jeff is uh, represented with the harmony. Not so much that I'm playing chords. I'm playing upright bass on all of this, so it's not like it's suddenly I'm playing six string bass or eight string bass or whatever, and covering that ground. But it just being aware, and then just also it being um, I a lot of the time think from a minimalist standpoint, and just in terms of how much can I ground, how much ground can I cover within just a limited palette, but just kind of saying what's necessary as opposed to being, you know, covering a lot of notes and, just to say the same thing, if that makes sense.
It makes total sense. I guess the main reason I asked, just minutes ago, literally minutes before we got on with this interview, I finished one of my weekly YouTube lessons, and it was about the two notes that can really kill you if you mess up. But the same two notes can also help you a lot if you know how to use them. And I talked about my University of Miami days with Vince Maggio was the advanced improv teacher, and his requirement from everybody, it didn't matter if you were a piano player or a trombone player or a saxophone player or a bass player, you could only play one note at a time because he
Yeah.
wanted the listener to be able to discern the changes going by, the chord changes. And we had to play like I Got Rhythm and Blues at any tempo asked for. He says, probably under 300 beats per minute.
Yeah.
So I'm talking about the importance of, okay, spoiler alert, the third and the seventh, not for you, but I mean for them, spoiler
Yeah.
alert. So, how you negotiate all that. So very fresh in my mind. And now you got me thinking about, Jerry Mulligan and Chet Baker. And of course, they were two horns then, but, outlining the harmony without a piano or John Patitucci, he
Yeah.
loves to do that stuff too. Did with, who was the, oh, I guess probably Michael Brecker and Terry Lynn
Oh,
Carrington,
yeah, yeah.
Okay, well, that was 2023, and the
Hmm.
pandemic is, I guess we could say it's officially over. So I know you've
Yeah.
been busy since we spoke in 2021. Tell me what else has been keeping you busy since we last spoke?
Well, gosh. Well, for the last, we did, I guess probably when I mentioned the last time we spoke, I was just about ready to go out and do, or there was a tour in the works with my sister, Alison Krauss and Robert Plant. And so we did that for 3 years, starting in 2022 and then going until this last fall. Yeah, I guess 2022, 23, 24. And it was just such a treat. Um, and I ended up playing almost everything but bass on that tour, where I played six string Dan electro bass, which uh, or they call it tic tac bass or whatever, along with Dennis Crouch. And then I also played acoustic guitar, electric guitar, and keyboard on that tour,
Wow.
and just was yeah, just really tremendous. I had played bass on the recording, the Raise the Roof record, but I ended up being kind of wearing a lot of hats on the tour with that, and just what it was such a treat, and of course I grew up as a Led Zeppelin fan and Robert Plant solo record fan, and then of course working with my sister again was a treat, and so yeah, just that was I would call that a milestone, that tour for me.
Well, what about you got me thinking about Paul McCartney when he puts down the bass and plays the piano or the guitar. There's somebody else playing the bass. I'm posing like a lefty. I'm not a lefty, but Paul is a lefty. Was there anybody else playing the bass when you played any of those other instruments?
Yeah, well, Dennis Crouch, a wonderful bassist that we all know, he ended up playing upright the entire time for that. And then, so I was kind of, so with the six string bass, a lot of the time I was playing, more guitaristic things, or sometimes we'd be doubling or kind of floating off of each other. Um, just so like where he could go to the third, I could be on the root, or certain ranges we could kind of play off of each other, and it was great. We never really told each other what we were going to do. It just we kind of both being bass players knew where to get out of the way, and it worked beautifully, I thought.
I don't really know a whole lot about Robert Plant,
Hmm.
the man person. Actually, I think Dan Rather used to have a show called what was it called?
The
The
big
interview,
interview.
big interview. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
he was. But what's it like playing with him, touring with him, hanging out with him?
Well, I mean, it was, really great. Very sweet person, very smart, very conscientious. Like I remember even the first time meeting him, that he had a way of making everybody in the room feel welcome and part of the conversation, as opposed to if he was just engaging with one person, he would make an effort. And I don't know if that's just good manners, probably is, but that he would make an effort just to make sure that everybody was okay to be in the conversation, and that it was not necessarily private. And gosh, and he's just such a historian of his own background, but musically, just knows so much. It's just a walking encyclopedia, and just I don't know, and he's just there to have a great time and explore new things. I think if he stays in one spot for too long, he's not as interested. Um, but I think, just in terms of, I mean, he kind of, invented a lot of that stuff, and just the iconic rock star, and just how going on stage, he just kind of is. Um, Gauging the crowd and feeling when a musical moment should happen, just in terms of excitement, the pacing of everything was just, we'd have to kind of watch him. It was not necessarily we were on autopilot. Uh,
Well, I'll tell you, there was one thing that surprised me in your last interview. given everything that you do and everything that you're known for, that
Mhm.
you said, well, deep down, I'm really a hard rock and roller. And that
Yes,
I wasn't expecting to hear that. So I wanted to ask you, speaking of Robert Plant, have you ever met John Paul Jones?
I did meet him. At the when I had a chance to go to back when they did the Raising Sand record. um there they did the O2 Arena show in December of 2007, and my sister wasn't able to go, but she said, would you like to go? And I, of course, and so I flew to London to go to the reunion show for the Ahmet Ertegun tribute, uh, and got to see the show, which was of course incredible, and we were given VIP passes to go. I went with my good friend Sean Smith, who I was in a band with in college and high school, and then met a whole bunch of people backstage, um, and I got to meet John Paul Jones just briefly, and it was just a complete honor that he knew of me, and uh, we also had some uh, Champaign, Illinois acquaintances in common, so that was kind of a neat moment as well. But yeah, it was such a treat.
He is not your typical hard rock bass player. I mean, just listening to the early stuff, like the Lemon song alone,
Yeah,
I hear so much James Jamerson and
yeah, yeah,
R&B
yeah.
stuff, and oh man, he's got that down. I love it.
Oh yeah, that's just it's like somebody said it was like a atomic Jamerson or something on, especially Led Zeppelin 2. Um, I actually went to the, you've probably seen the ads for the Becoming Led Zeppelin documentary. I went to that last night, and that John Paul Jones had a really legit um, background in terms of like even was the choir director or at age 14 playing organ in the churches and just yeah, just fascinating, deep musician.
I have tried. I'm pretty sure we tried to reach out to him. I'd love to get an interview with him. It hasn't happened yet, but
Yeah.
I got Paul McCartney, but I couldn't get John Paul Jones. So
Oh wow, how exciting. I didn't know that happened. That's exciting.
yeah. You talked a bit, I think, about Lyle Lovett in the last
Mhm.
interview. Are you still doing much with him? Still
I'm
keeping that
not
up?
actually when I did the last I did something. I did an Austin City Limits 50th anniversary show with him last year, just at the end of the year, and just played a couple songs for on the show. But um, when I started doing the tour with my sister and Robert, um, I couldn't be in two places at the same time, so I haven't been doing that. But Leland Sklar has been doing that, which we've kind of tag team over the years, and you know, he's wonderful, of course.
I know he had been doing it. I guess it was kind of on and off, but
Yeah,
I wasn't sure what was happening now. Hey,
yeah,
tell me about your gear. I know we had talked about that last
yeah,
time, and you had mentioned the upright stuff and curious upright electric gear, strings, amps, effects, without
yeah,
going
yeah.
into ridiculous, but just generally.
Yeah, well, for the upright, I go between two basses that I've had pretty much my entire career. I've had more than those two, um, and then I end up getting rid of the other ones because these always work. And one, my main recording bass is it's a Jusek from the late
Yeah,
40s. And I've played a number of them, and some of them are terrible, and this one's just a magical one with a really defined mid range. But I've pretty much recorded with that one since, oh gosh, 95. So almost, whatever that is, if 30 years. Yeah.
30 years.
Yeah. And I've always been a Tomastic Spiracore guy, um, medium gauge or orchestra gauge S42, and if I need to sound more legitimate on bow, I usually switch to bel cantos, just so it makes me sound better than I really am, um, and um, the other bass is supposedly a Marchetti. Barry Colstein thought it could be, or Marchetti-ish or whatever. It was a Italian 7/8 size bass that supposedly late 1800s, um, and great agile bass. Doesn't record as well as the Jusek, but so I've become more apt to play the 7/8 one live. Just it's a friendlier neck, and and I used to take the Jusek everywhere, but it got cooked in a truck one time, and almost every glue joint that could go. It was in Phoenix. Um, did
Oh,
so it was a major restoration. So I said, well, maybe that one doesn't need to go anywhere anytime soon. And uh, same strings on that one, and the pickups I use, it's kind of involved. Actually, I have a whole YouTube clip that shows that whole mess that's on there.
I know Fishman is one of them, right?
Yes, Fishman. I love the BP 100. I've used that for forever, and that one I always liked because it's the most shapeable, even though it might sound a little brittle or high mids right at first, but I usually help it with a Demeter tube DI, the VT uh, vacuum tube direct box, VT, whatever it is, abbreviation one. And that combination's been kind of like the sound that I use for front of house or for recording. And then for the amp, I use a mix of the old Underwood and a Beasley magnetic pickup. And so the Underwood is kind of handling um, mid-range, low mids, and then the Beasley's handling um, just pure bass information. And then I mix those two or mix the three into this Layla parallel pedal, and then it goes to a bunch of other stuff. So that's kind of it's a mess, but it works.
I was I wasn't going to ask you this because I completely forgot about it until like this second. Did I see something on Facebook like a day or two ago with you with everything you just described, all the different?
Yeah, yeah, I think you did. Yeah, there's a picture of it, and usually I get a little bit of grief for it because it looks like, it's like it looks like it needs a patch bay and it seems like overkill, but it really has been like in particular, the Beasley magnetic pickup has become such a helper in terms of the piezo. You can get all the character of the piezo, but let the Beasley do the heavy lifting. And so uh, it's allowed me not to be forced to take like a 9-band parametric EQ to try to scallop out whatever feedback problems they're going to have. So now I can get really loud, and uh, it just, yeah, it works really beautifully. It looks like a total science project, um, but yeah, it's a yeah. There is a YouTube clip that explains that I did a couple maybe about a year ago that shows all the routing and what it does and how loud it can get, and uh, yeah, it seems to work.
What about your electrics? You
Well,
were
the
playing
electric. I'm sorry.
under jazz, I think that you said you were playing.
Yeah, yeah. So I have a 61 um, jazz bass that I absolutely love. It's not the concentric knobs. It's a very early three knob version, and it's just I remember the first time I played it. It was um, I was at Groons and somebody, Keith Gregory, who worked there at the time, so he said, "Oh, are you here for the jazz bass?" And I go, "What jazz bass?" He says, "You got to hear it. It's great." And within 30 seconds, it was just like, okay, this is like the best electric bass I've ever played. Um, and so and fortunately it was a number of years ago, so it wasn't quite as expensive as it is now. Um, but it's just, yeah, just a spectacular instrument, and um,
Is
that's
that
pretty.
or you Grooms?
Uh,
I'm not familiar. Is that Grooms? You said is that a
oh,
store or is that
Groon guitar. So it's
Groom?
GRU. Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
and
because my son took me to my, my son was like 14 at the time, 15. We were at the Summer NAMM show in Nashville, and there
yeah.
was a place with Carl's, right? Or Carl? You know what I'm talking? Carl's. Isn't that the name of it? You could play that 58p basses and what's that play?
Oh, was
That's
it
Carl
Carter?
Carter. That's it. Yes.
Yeah, 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 yeah. This was actually even before Carter's was around, when I got this. Um, but yeah, so it's that bass, which is just great, and then that always ends up winning. Like I'll bring a bunch of stuff, and then that one just works on everything. Um, but then I have a Gibson EB3, the SG body with two pickups that somebody modded to have a sweepable pot between the typically muddy pickup and the more bright pickup near the bridge, and that's great too. It's funny. Somebody calls that. There's an engineer that calls it the party bass because it's. I don't know. It's not the same length as a Fender, but you end up playing all this kind of short scale stuff that uh, but you can get it to be completely um, subby and I don't know. It's just a different. I don't know. Anytime I pick it up, it's a different set of synapses that fire for that one, than the jazz bass. And then um, trying to think of 59 precision bass, that I've had since, gosh, 1990. And uh, yeah, it's really great
Did you
too.
modify that at all? Did you modify
No,
that at all, or is that
no,
yeah?
it's just stock, yeah. And
Same with the jazz, I assume.
yeah, the jazz is straight too. Um, and I have a 62 jazz that's also, that I have flats on. That sounds really good. Um, but like if when I play the 61 and the 62, the 61 just kind of destroys it, even though the 62 is wonderful. And that one's been refinished, but it's got a kind of an interesting neck on it. Um, also, oh, and these are weird, and not everybody's a fan of them, but I love the Travis Bean TB
Oh,
2000s, and they're interesting because they cut through everything. Um, just because of the aluminum neck. I mean, um, those were an interesting design for those that don't know about them. It's probably the most visible player is Bill Wyman, from the middle period of the Stones, probably like 76 through probably 83. You saw him playing, the kind of striking, weird, almost looks like homemade type of thing with a metal neck on it. And um and those are just so distinctive sounding, where they just like anything that's like, if you're like in a wall of like guitars, and or like you know even like 12 string and just like tons of other guitars, that bass will cut through anything better than anything, than to me. Like it's just such a focused fundamental, and I don't know, and again, it kind of makes you play different stuff. I feel like I'm like even a little more daring on that instrument than other ones.
Didn't Peavy make up something like that in like the 90s? Like a metal.
Kramer. Kramer made like the early Kramers had a Kramer and Travis
Yeah.
Bean were partners, and they broke off kind of early on, and the early Kramers have a kind of a similar odd looking headstock where you can tell it's it's aluminum, but it's also got has grafted little pieces of metal. I'm not grafted pieces of wood in there, so it's not, just completely playing like a big piece of aluminum. So it's a little
I
more
remember
familiar.
going to a NAMM
But
show in
maybe
like
maybe PV made something like
1991.
that too.
I think
Yeah.
Brian Bromberg and Neil Stubenhouse and but
Oh
I
wow.
thought yeah, the big
Maybe they
PV
did. I
suite.
don't know. But another weird one. I've got an old Steinberger, like an old L2, and those have such a voice too. I mean, like the moment you play it, you hear 1,080 songs happening, at once, and uh,
Never get comfortable with those. I tried. I wanted to. I said, "This is great. I love the concept," but
yeah, yeah, it's really a standing instrument. I mean, you really do have to stand with it, even with the little bayonet. Um, uh, you know, leg rest or whatever, and uh,
but I
but
love
they're
what NSI is putting out now with
yeah,
they got the
yeah,
radius great uprights that the fours and
hmm
the five, only 11.
yeah. I'm trying to think of anything else. Um, yeah, and then a couple, and then I was a Warwick endorsee for a long time, and I have a number of their instruments, but I really like the star basses, the ones
Speaking of Bill Wyman,
yeah, yeah, well, another bill, but
Pete
this was like
Sklar,
the yeah, yeah. So it's a hollow body, um, and
yep,
I have both a like a bull bingo one, fretted one, and then a fretless one. That's just great.
Rex
And then I
Brown, even, which I
what's
thought
that?
was kind of Rex. I remember Rex Brown played one of
Huh,
those too, which I thought was kind of odd given the kind of music he plays. But
yeah,
great, they invited me, and I was there, I think, 4 times in Markneukirchen, Germany.
yeah, yeah. I went to it one time too, and the bass festival. I think
Yeah, well,
it may have been like 2017 or something like that.
that was, I think, the reunion one. I went in, oh, I did go there. I went in 14, 15, and 16. I didn't go in 17, but they invited me back in 19 when Roger Sadowski was there and they were
Oh wow.
celebrating the alliance there that they had. That was awesome.
Yeah.
That was
But
what kind
yeah,
of
that was
strings do you play on your electrics? I was just curious.
gosh. Well, pretty much um Diodario did I can never and usually like I like the 100 on the bottom for the most part. I'm trying to remember which one. I could go find it, but I don't know which one it is. It's like XL something, but it's um
NYX or something like that.
yeah, I don't think it's the NY one. It's maybe just the uh yeah, I could run
What
and get
about
it
with
if you
one of your jazz spaces? You said you put flats on. Those are
yeah, the
also
flats
D'Addario?
I like the Ernie Ball Cobalt. Um
Ah, yeah.
and um those seemed like I really like the tension on those. Um and then the GHS pressure wounds on the which are hard to find a little bit pressure wounds on the P bass.
Hour away from where I'm sitting right now, Battle
What's
Creek,
that?
Michigan. Hour
Oh
away
yeah,
from where I'm right
yeah,
now.
yeah. Yeah. Um,
On Moot
but
Factory.
and then Ernie Balls on the six string basses. Oh yeah, the six string basses are kind of interesting. I have a 59 UB2 that's the one that I primarily used with Alison and Robert, and just great. Um, and
It's very.
that yeah, yeah, but it was the Dan Electro one, and then the I don't know what they called them. Um, it was the shorter version, six string with the double cutaway. So the UB2 has the single cutaway black, and it's kind of the classic one that um, and then then the later one, I think it's like a 60 um, with the double the two horn one. It's a shorter scale one that just one pickup, and that one sounds thunderous as well. And then I have also one of the Gretsch Dwayne Eddy six string
Wow.
um, basses with the beautiful with the uh, Bigsby on and all that kind of stuff. For
I have a real appreciation for vintage instruments.
yeah, yeah.
Did I
I think
ask
that
you what you play through? I don't think I did.
I'm kind of in between stuff right now. I had the most incredible um, Warwick. Um, it was the Jonas Hellborg um, rig.
His name popped into my head when you said Warwick amp.
Yeah, yeah, and it was just a fantastic setup, and Warwick stopped supporting it, or they stopped making it, and it was hard to um, get it repaired. And so I had a power amp blowout on it, and then they weren't making the speakers anymore, and it was just the most gorgeous setup ever to me. And but yeah, I had to kind of retire it from touring because of um, just not being able to get it. Working the preamps were just, it was like based off of a 1073. It was just the most clean, most versatile, especially for upright bass. Um, and then I became an Orange endorsee, when I started working with Alison and Robert, and I used the Mark I wouldn't know gosh, what is it? It's the 200 head Mark III, which was very simple design, but that one, I again love the sound of it. I've kind of gone back to, and this will sound really silly, but I started hearing recordings of myself playing in the '90s through the SWR 900s, those old, and those still sound incredible. And and being okay,
Got one of their cabinets right behind me here.
yeah, the
The SW.
cabinets are great too. And so it's been I've been contemplating. um I still I'm okay with carrying big stuff because it still sounds great. I appreciate the light stuff. I mean, if somebody has backline, I'll take it, first. But and as a since I'm not as young as I was, but just that stuff. I mean, just the old stuff, still, you know, and I still have some of the orange cabinets, which I sometimes use a combination of that, with tens and a horn, and four tens or two 410 cabinets with a horn, and something powerful like an SF 900. I also have a euphonic audio 800 heads as well, which I know Leland uses too, and I like all that old stuff just because it's you know there's there's still a lot of power behind it, and um, that stuff is good.
It is. Hey, let's switch gears for a second.
Mhm,
And I want to ask you, I know we talked a little bit about learning bass, and
mhm,
in the last interview, you were talking about how to approach learning hard parts, which I thought was
mhm.
very interesting.
Oh
I want
yeah,
to change a little bit. And, for bass players only is primarily a bass instruction site. And we've got
yes.
people from every state in the US now. And I don't know, 40, 50, 60 countries. I'm not sure last time anybody counted, coming to for bass players only. every day to learn bass.
Yeah.
And most of them are, over 40, and some of them are older than over 40.
Yeah.
We have
Well,
people in their
I'm over 40.
50s, 60s, 70s. I have students in their 80s, men and women.
Wow.
And they are not looking to, they're not career bound. They're not looking to tour the world playing sold out arenas to adoring fans or in a Super Bowl halftime show or anything.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
want to play some classic rock riffs or some blues shuffles or some walking bass, maybe a little funk
Hmm.
R&B. A lot of times what happens when we get into our 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, maybe a little arthritis, maybe a little tendonitis, maybe recovering from surgery, so we have a smattering of that too. And I'm telling you all this just to give you a context because I want to ask you what advice you could impart to somebody like that. I was doing another interview earlier. I was talking to Gary Granger, and I said, I was talking in a webinar about when I was like 17 and I was
Hmm.
learning how to play the bass. My goals were the wrong goals. They were all wrong. I was trying to play Stanley Clark and Jeff Berlin
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Taco and all that. I was trying to play fast. And I was trying to dazzle. And I was trying to impress. And it's like, no, it's about locking in with the drummer and laying
Yeah,
down the
yeah.
groove and making the music feel good. So that's just my example. But as far as goals go, what should these people be striving for? What should they be thinking about? What should they be trying to accomplish learning bass at that stage in life? What do you think?
Well, again, it's kind of, I mean, like if there isn't necessarily a huge goal other than just to have a good time, just to kind of pace it to yourself where, you know, what sounds within my ability, try to approach things that aren't necessarily, you know, teen town first, or, like find something that's joyful in the same way as like playing something like, I don't know, another one bites the dust, which is, I mean, the nuance of that is not necessarily just um, the note choices. The note choices couldn't be easier on that, especially on the main riff. But how do you make it feel good? How do you play along with something just to make it feel like, oh wow, okay, it's not just because, because I think a lot of the time people will think, how hard is the satisfaction, how hard of something, how is the satisfaction, or am I getting through the mechanics of it versus how does it make you feel? And like once it makes you feel good, then it feels like, okay, this is something is working here, and you may not necessarily be able to pinpoint what that is. So the moment that it feels like, okay, I'm really playing with the drummer now, you know that could be enough, um and like, what it probably which it isn't as easy it seems, like playing AC/DC, I mean, like how many different ways can you play an eighth note on the root? And whether if it's in the front of the beat or in the back of the beat or the duration of the note or the octave choice, those are like the simplest fundamental things. But in nuance of that, like playing an A on the E string or an open A, those are different things as well. Um, or just where you put your hand on, like going from closer to the bridge or closer to the neck, just little subtle things that seem so rudimentary, but you could find joy in just changing the little thing and just this, it's just it's for me it's discovery. And like even when I've taught students, um, to kind of go, okay, well, you may know tons of everything here, but like what's here in your right hand is dictating everything. This is more your voice than this, in a lot of ways. So just kind of finding, where does it feel good? What makes it sound? What is satisfying to you, just from what you're doing with your right hand, and then I don't know, that's a very long-winded answer, but um,
I, I like it because you made me think about two things right now. Just what you're
Okay.
saying about the plucking hand. I refer to it so as not to offend the lefties.
Yeah.
Plucking
Yeah.
hand.
Yes, yes.
I've gotten into this discussion with Roger Sadowski as recently as like 2, 3 weeks ago at the NAMM show. I said
Yeah.
I can't understand the only two guys I know, Will Lee and Marcus Miller. Why do they leave that thing on? What he calls it, the ashtray, the cover,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
thing that
Yeah,
it
yeah, yeah.
forces you to either play all the way over here or either play all the way down here. Why in the world would anybody want that? And he's
Yeah, yeah.
just used to it. I don't know, but
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
what I'm there. And the other thing that I really like what you said about find an easy. I thought of Seven Nation Army as maybe another one,
Oh, yeah, yeah,
or
yeah.
Iron Man, But there's another thing that I tell my students about it. Probably my favorite Beatles bass line is "I saw her standing there." It's a great doom
Okay.
doom
Yeah,
doom
yeah,
doom.
yeah, yeah. Hmm.
Well, you don't have to play that to play that song. You can go doom 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 doom,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
Sweet Alabama. So you can tell, or a Motown, take a Jamerson. You don't have to play Jamerson's note for note stuff. You can
Yeah, yeah.
simplify that, and you can still play the song, and you can still make the music feel great just
Yeah.
by laying down a simple groove. So you made me think of that with what you were saying. I really like what you said about the approach, and make it feel good, and you'll know it when it's there. If you have
Yeah.
to say how did that feel, then then it's not there yet,
But
right?
it's also interesting with the instruments that, like, just in terms of where you position stuff and how different it is. Like, if you play B F sharp on the E string and the A string up high, or in the middle, or the tension on B on the A string and F sharp on the D string, the quality of the sound it is. And it's not always just convenience of where else everything is going to lay. It can be a sonic choice that you may prefer, or you might find on one instrument it sounds better here. Like on upright, I almost always like to find the area of the greatest tension. So like in the case of, like, I like being like from nut to open string, the least amount of resistance, even if it's a sacrifice, because I find that sonically it's brighter to me. I don't know, it's just,
Yeah.
this is an example, a very specific example for me, like,
My teacher used to talk about that very thing. He used to have me play Vivaldi sonatas, and
yeah,
you when you're playing lower, closer to the nut, there's more string to vibrate, so you get a different quality, different kind of sound, like you're saying.
yeah,
So
yeah. If it's divided in the
some,
center, it's just, yeah, yeah,
but I don't. You're making me think of John Patitucci's "Got a Match." When he played on the six. This is when the six-string bass was all the rage, and the
yeah,
first
yeah, yeah,
electric band album. And I can tell that he was up here, and then all of a sudden he was down here, and I don't want to say it bothers me, but it was very obvious to me, and every time I hear it, I can tell that he's playing in a different range of the bass than he was a minute ago. So the quality of the tone is different. I'm not saying it's
yeah,
better or it doesn't match what he was just playing. So
yeah,
I
yeah,
like to really geek out on this stuff.
yeah. No, no, I do too.
I don't do it on purpose. It's just, I don't know. This stuff excites me. I could talk to you, but I can't talk to my wife like this. She doesn't get it,
Yeah. Mine either. I can't talk to her about that either.
What about the future, Victor? What else do you have coming up that you haven't mentioned, or anything that maybe you've always wanted to do but you haven't gotten around to it yet? Someday I'm gonna.
Gosh. Well, it's there's a bunch of stuff that's kind of in the works, but I don't know if I can say much of it yet. I mean, other than because it may make a liar out of me. But there's some stuff that I for a couple years. I mean, well, I did my own solo records, and wanting to do another one of that, but possibly doing one as a symphonic collaboration in my hometown. with some of the material from those records. So that could be fun, but I don't know if it's going to formulate yet. We were just kind of talking about it at this point. Boy, I'm trying to think of some stuff.
Didn't Victor Wooten do something with the Nashville Symphony Orchestra?
He probably did, I'm sure. Um,
Yeah.
I'm just about ready to do something my son goes to Berkeley in Boston,
Ah,
and so I'm likely to do um, and again, they just talked about doing it possibly at the end of this month. We're going to do a Q&A over there with Steve Bailey and Victor Wooten at the college. So that'll be fun coming up.
my
And
son went there too. He had a great
oh, really?
experience.
Wow.
What does your son play?
He plays. He's his focus instrument, as the first semester goes, is he plays guitar and probably will be in the composition division, but it's hard to say at this point. But he's really taking a liking to classical guitar, which was not predicted at all, and he's kind of a rock and roll guy like me, and yeah, and I guess just a lot of recording coming up, and you know, this is actually my first year in a long time that I don't have a tour to go out. So um, it's actually giving me some time to get some other stuff done and be some area that, but we'll see if the bank account likes it as much.
I wish you good luck on all
Yeah,
of
yeah,
those fronts.
yeah. But yeah, just continuing to play on stuff and um, you know. Yeah, then the record with Jeff and Jordan coming up is that's pretty exciting.
Do you when you're not immersed in a project, do you still practice just to practice?
I always like to play. I don't think I don't know if I really call it practicing anymore. There's enough stuff that kind of comes through the um, pipeline that it kind of keeps things interesting. Um, where it's um, yeah, um, yeah. I don't know. I guess every recording experience kind of kind of where I am in my career, people kind of hire me because of who I am, or that I offer a certain thing. There's so many players here in Nashville that you have you can take any spice you want, and I'm kind of one of those spices, as opposed to salt, that works in everything. I'm probably more like fennel seed, you know, um, so.
Interesting.
But uh so they usually hire me to be kind of the more left of center upright guy more than anything else, if that's a category. But um
He's not.
you know yeah, um I think the stuff that I did with Bill Frisell in the 90s and two, first part of the 2000s, usually if people know those records more than anything else, and they says, "Hey, will you do that?" You know, so that's a nice thing, yeah,
Yeah.
to con to continue being referenced to doing. Um, Trying to think of. Oh yeah, I'm also in the middle of okay, yeah, maybe on the stuff. I'm in the middle of an very interesting record with this woman from Argentina. Um, Gabriela Marone, and it's all in Spanish, and where I'm kind of creating the bed for those for the track. She'll send me a vocal, and then I'll interpret it from that point on, and really interesting project so far. And she was somebody that I'd also worked with, Bill Frisell, in the I guess the early 2000s. We did a couple records together, and then she'd asked me to play on stuff, and now I'm producing the record, so that's pretty fun at this point. And um, just played on Nitty Gritty Dirt Band record with Jerry Douglas producing. So that was fun. That was a couple of weeks ago, and um, that was a lot of fun because I played. Um, there was one tune where it was eighth notes, and I played everything on upright, but then doubled it on the six string bass. And so I had to pretty much double everything that I did. So I had to kind of go back. Fortunately, it was just eighth notes with little variances every once in a while. So I was able to kind of notate, okay, I did a quick 4/5 here, and then able to kind of double it pretty effectively.
Yeah.
And so that was fun, and
You do most of that stuff at home in that room you're sitting in now, as opposed to
yeah,
the
most of
old
the
way.
stuff that, yeah, this is a place that we built three, I guess 4 years ago. And it's about 1,000 square foot space.
Oh,
Um, I can, if I don't lose connection, I've been in the midst of I tore it apart a couple of days ago, and I'm just kind of I had it rewiring it to kind of there was some workflow stuff that wasn't working very well, and so now um, it's better than it was. But yeah, yeah, actually, we do a few things through here. I had a choir. Um, it was, I guess, it was 14 people in the other day, and the spot was the first. It was the most people at once the other day, and
able to accommodate that everybody comfortably, I would think.
yeah, and um, yeah, and then just people send me stuff to do here, and we've tracked a few projects here. With it, usually, it can accomplish for musicians without a lot of creativity. I mean, without trying to figure out where to put something else. Four is an easy number to deal with. Here, so it's been good.
Well, so great catching up with you, Victor.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
a lot has happened in the what, 3.5, 4 years since we last did one of these. So
yeah,
maybe we should do another follow
yeah,
couple of
yeah.
years. I'm sure stuff to talk about. I don't think
Oh,
we've ever actually met in person yet, so we'll
I
have
don't
to do
think
that
so.
too. There's no more summer NAMM in Nashville, and it's
Yeah, it's just too
boy,
bad.
it gets so hot down there. I lived in
Oh
Miami
yeah,
for
it's
six.
rough.
I know what hot is, but I think Nashville, I don't know, felt even hotter to me. I don't know.
It does feel hot. I mean, I'm from the Midwest as well. I'm from Champaign, Illinois. So, um, so um, there's real seasons there. Here, it's damp and then super hot.
Yes. Well, we're supposed to get 4 to 6 inches of snow between now and this time tomorrow. I'm up in Michigan. So
Wow.
I like it. It's kind of fun. I don't I like 4 seasons though. I wouldn't want it like that all year round. I wouldn't want summer off. Fall is my favorite season.
Yeah, yeah. Fall, I think, is my favorite as well. Yeah, we get
Well,
about. I'm sorry.
you could get, sorry, go
Oh,
ahead.
we get about 2 days of spring and then it's summer.
You know what? I interviewed Roy Vogt a
Oh
few
yeah.
weeks ago. And actually, is it? I think at the time of this recording, it's up this week right now, and I think everybody in Nashville was panicking because you were supposed to get like a half an inch of snow or something like
Yeah,
that.
barely anything. Yeah. I was an adjunct at Belmont for a little while with Roy. And
Yeah, he's been there
in the
for forever, since like 1983 or something.
yeah, I think so, 82, 83 or something like that. But yeah,
Oh,
it was nice. I did it for a little while there, and it was nice. He kind of they had jazz and classical well represented it, and they had Adam Nitti, you know,
yes,
uh, for for fusion and everything that he does, and they said, yeah, just you just make up and you do everything else, and just kind of make your own curriculum, which was pretty interesting. And I had I kind of for based it on doing um, giving them music that didn't already have a bass part on it, so like a lot of guitar vocal type of stuff, and then
oh,
have them learn it. Um, and then just we would kind of interpret what they would do. So it didn't matter to me how they learn it. I would just send them the recording. They could chart it out, however they would, and then they'd come back and play whatever they thought they could come up with. And it was pretty interesting. It was like watching Project Runway, with different interpretations of the same assignment, and or Top Chef or whatever.
That's very healthy. Very. I think that's really that would really be helpful and educational, and I think that's awesome.
Yeah, I thought it was a really good exercise,
Wasn't
and then I'm sorry.
the the feed is kind of you almost frozen, then you frozen, and I think we've
Yeah,
been very
yeah,
lucky. We should probably not push up.
yeah,
And I've kept
yeah.
you an awfully long time.
No, no, I
Yeah,
appreciate you
oh,
having me.
it's great. Yes. Well, I'll send you a link when this goes live. It'll be
Yeah,
I think toward the end of February, so
terrific.
you can share that, tell everybody you know. It's
That sounds
it's
great.
great getting together like this, and like I said, oh, I look forward to meeting you in person, hopefully soon and
Yeah,
often.
that sounds great.
Uh,
Well, I appreciate you having me again.
sure. Take care, my friend, and
You
we'll
too.
be in touch.
Sounds great. Thanks.
I always love getting together with Victor. We geek out on so much stuff. He's got great stories, and I hope you enjoyed that interview as much as I did. If you've ever wanted to learn bass, you should know that right now there are thousands of people inside the For Bass Players Only community, people of all ages. And you know what they're doing? They're learning bass. They're having the time of their life playing music that they love. You should come join them and experience that incredible transformation for yourself. You're never too old to groove. I will see you right back here, same time, same place next week with another For Bass Players Only interview. In the meantime, I'm John Liebman. Let's play bass.